Redding!
After years of ambition and drive, Otis Redding's sacrifices paid off. Otis toured across the United States, Canada, Europe, and the Caribbean, packing out venues and breaking box office records wherever he went. In 1966, Otis Redding was one of the biggest names in soul. He broke through racial boundaries too and crossed over to white audiences like few black artists had ever done before. Then in 1967, he earned 3 Grammy nominations for his recordings. And when the Monterey Pop Festival came that year, that was the night that Otis exploded into stardom. In a sea of white, flower-crowned hippies, they were about to hear something they had never heard before, at least not like what Otis was about to give them. He was the only soul act on a bill filled with Jefferson Airplane and Jimi Hendrix. And by the time he closed his set with Try a Little Tenderness, the crowd wasn't just impressed, they were converted. They were digging Otis Redding just as much as the black audiences for whom he had always played. His energy and excitement, his showmanship, and his relationship with the crowd made Redding a master as a performer who had the rare gift of being able to reach audiences the world over. Otis killed it, man. He was on fire, and he knew it. And in 1968, it was set to be his biggest year yet, with performances lined up at New York's Philharmonic Hall and Washington's Constitution Hall, plus scheduled appearances on national TV shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. But here's the twist, y'all. By now, he was also getting tired. He started talking about taking a break or something, spending more time with his wife Zelma and their 3 kids, finally slowing down. The road just takes a lot out of you. But he knew he had at least one more good song in him, and it would come, and it would be different. Now, at a time when he had just returned from a tour of Europe and California, by now something had completely changed in him. The man who once screamed soul into every mic now just wanted peace, quiet, reflection. And in that process came the song.
I'm sitting on the dock of the bay.
It was unlike anything Redding had ever written before. And most people don't know, it was actually influenced by his admiration for the Beatles classic, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band album. Otis played the Beatles album constantly during a week he had spent on his houseboat in Sausalito when performing at San Francisco's Basin Street West. This was August 1967. He just sat by the water and started staring at the ocean, listening to the gulls, just sitting on the dock, looking out at the bay. Yep, you guessed it. And then he started to write. Y'all know the song. Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes. Most of y'all can sing the rest. It wasn't just a song, it was a moment, a sigh, a kind of goodbye to it all. He had the perfect song idea. And later, a guy by the name of Steve Cropper would help him shape it. But Otis didn't sound like the man from Respect anymore. This was now a man who had felt too much, seen too much, and was ready to let the tide take him away. They finished the rough version on December 7, 1967, and it had that perfect lilt, memorable hook, and a great story. This all signaled his creative expansion as a writer and an artist. That song was going to become Otis Redding's biggest worldwide hit and signature song. This was going to be it, and it was. Though being it would not just be for the song, it would be also for his life too. 3 days later, Otis Redding's plane went down in Lake Monona, Wisconsin. He was flying from Cleveland, Ohio to Madison, Wisconsin to perform a concert at the Factory nightclub. Yeah, in all his massive success, Redding had acquired 2 private planes for himself. And it was his twin-engine Beechcraft that he was riding in on that tragic day. He died at the age of 26, only 26 years old. Gone just like that. The world lost a great musician and a great man on that day. But he wasn't the only music artist on the plane. The crash also killed 4 members of the famed group, the Bar-Kays, their valet, and the pilot. Trumpet player Ben Colley was the sole survivor of the crash. Y'all, sadly, you can see here, Redding's body was recovered the next day when the lake was searched. His wife and his family were devastated, and his kids were left without a father. Otis Redding's funeral was held at the City Auditorium in Macon, Georgia on December 18, 1967. It was attended by over 4,500 mourners, overflowing the 3,000-seat hall. And Redding was entombed at his ranch in Round Oak, about 20 miles north of Macon, Georgia. And that special song he was working on would be his final recording. Dock of the Bay was released just weeks after his death. It became the first posthumous #1 single in American history, and it's still one of the most played, most beloved soul records of all time. And did you know that there was never a real-time video made of him singing it? Let that sink in. A song about watching life pass by became a timeless reminder of how short that life really is. Later, he was posthumously inducted into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame in 1981. He was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989. Man, Otis inspired everyone from Aretha Franklin to, believe it or not, Kanye West. And his voice still echoes in the bones of any singer who dares to sing with grit and heart over being polished and just dressed up. In 1999, he was recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. Now, Zelma carried on as the family matriarch and continued to rear their children to successful adulthood in honor of her late husband. And Zelma also adopted a daughter after Otis's death. You see all of them here. All of these adult children are successfully working in music or a business-related field. But maybe the most powerful thing about Otis Redding is that he never got the chance to grow old, to fade. But he also never did anything to disappoint us. No scandals, none. Just a wholesome and intelligent performer. His life was focused on music and his family. That's it. And with all the craziness and everything else that was happening in the 60s, that's big. So we can remember him at his best. We remember him pure. A blazing soul comet burned bright and left the sky glowing. That's Otis Redding. His voice still hits hard, even today. Yeah, man, I know that was a kind of long story, but it was one I definitely had to tell. Real quick, I want to clarify a couple of things. One of Otis Redding's sons did pass away on April 18, 2023, at the age of 59 from cancer. He was part of the funk, soul, and disco band called the Reddings, keeping Otis's legacy alive. It was formed with Otis's son Dexter and Otis Jr., together with Mark Lockett. Now, Zelma Redding turned 83 in April of 2025 and still lives on the sprawling ranch outside of Macon, Georgia, that Otis bought back in 1965. As you see, she had laid him to rest next to her driveway by a stand of tall pine trees. Man, I hope you guys appreciate that. Took a lot of work, and I'm going to see you next time on the Music Mindset channel. Thanks.